Alright peeps, this presentation is called The Adventures of Captain Hookworm, starring Aaron Etienne, Akila Thomas, Crystal Thomas, and Giselle Huggins. The scientific name for the Old World hookworm is Ancylostoma duodenale, #a mouthful. They are small cylindrical worms that have a greyish-white appearance, and they have two ventral plates on the anterior margin of the buccal capsule. Each of them has two large teeth fused at the bases. A pair of small teeth can be found in the depths of the buccal capsule. In the diagram to your right, you see ventral teeth, dorsal tooth, and groove in capsule wall clearly labeled. With an average lifespan of about 1 year, males are about 8 to 11 milliliters long, while females are about 10 to 30 milliliters long. Males possess a copulatory bursa at the posterior end, while females possess a vulva located at the posterior end. So, the Old World hookworms are found, guess where? In the Old World. These consist of places such as Southern Europe, Northern Africa, Northern India, China, Southeast Asia, and isolated regions within the United States of America, South America, and the Caribbean. Special interest should be taken in this parasite as, living in the Caribbean region, there is a possibility one might encounter it. This parasite is notorious for wedging itself into the bare skin of humans through their feet, and it can cause diseases, various acute or chronic infections. Here is a diagram provided by the CDC highlighting the overall life cycle of the intestinal hookworm. It begins with eggs and feces, which is the diagnostic stage. The falciform larva is the infective stage, and it does so by penetrating intact skin, most commonly through the feet, #wear your shoes. It then enters the blood and the lymphatic system. So you can see in the diagram to the right where the red streak seen is not the actual worm, but evidence of irritation that the worm causes. It then makes its way to the right side of your heart to be carried to the lungs, where it's going to ascend your respiratory tract, where you cough it up and then swallow it back into your small intestines. It then matures in the small intestine into the adult form, particularly in the duodenum, where they attach to the villi, and the female worms can lay up to 25,000 eggs per day. Eggs are then deposited via defecation in feces, and they reside in the soil, where, once conditions are warm and moist, the eggs will hatch and develop into larvae rapidly within 2 days. These rhabdisiform larvae undergo 2 molting stages, where they become the infective falciform larva within 5 to 10 days. Infective falciform larvae are able to sense vibrations in the soil, heat, or carbon dioxide. They use processes that involve thermosensory, chemosensory, and mechanosensory receptors to migrate towards a host for infection. They can then penetrate the exposed skin of an unsuspecting human to begin a new life cycle. Here are a list of symptoms, the main ones being diarrhea, abdominal pain and distension, iron deficiency, and an itchy rash at the site of infection. Hookworms can result in hookworm disease, which is a gastrointestinal infection characterized by chronic blood loss that eventually leads to iron deficiency anemia and protein deficiency. Anthelminthic drugs such as albendazole or mebendazole can be used to treat hookworm infection.
This brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.
My time has come. I, captain of the old stinky seas, have come to rain hell. Don't be shocked. The legends are true, but don't be scared. I don't bite.
Once upon a time, there was an esteemed crew of pirates called the Old World Hookworms. This mighty crew of small cylindrical hookworms loved traveling all around the muddy waters of the Petty Sea, where they conquered the poop-ridden ocean and battled with all its stinky, scary monsters. They were strong and deadly infective falciform larvae, and no one dared disturb their terrible reign. But times were growing tough, and a good human home was getting more difficult to come by. Rival crews grew bold and audacious with hunger and desperation. What seemed like a fraction of eternity passed, each second spent looking for new land to call their own. One day, far, far away in the distance, the Old World hookworm sensed the heat and carbon dioxide of a human foot, supple and pink as ever.
Ahoy! All hands away! Look in the distance, mates! Foot!
Shouted the captain, the teeth at the depths of his buccal capsule pulsating with anticipation. The crew began to race towards the foot, but it wasn't going to be that easy. In the distance was the enemy, the New World hookworms. But they smiled, for they knew their enemy was no match. They were poised for battle. The New World hookworms were swollen with arrogance, but the Old World veterans would not, nay, could not be intimidated.
Aye, ye old bastards, your reign will end tonight,
yelled Captain Newworm, red-faced with anticipation. But his crew was hungry and thin, skin thinly stretched over bones. They would die for their next meal. Swords sang as they clashed. Bones cried as they broke. The heavens haven't seen such a bloodshed before. The Old World slayed the New World, and the New World hookworm's arrogance was laid to rest in the blink of an eye. High off of victory, the Old World crew raised their hook blades drenched in the fresh blood and fire of their enemies. After the brutal conquest, they entered the bloody portal, where the treacherous red tides awaited them on the next part of their journey to the infinite treasures found on the land of the intestines. Even though the journey across the stormy Parasites was already hard won, even more perilous times were ahead. Right on cue, almost immediately, the Old World hookworms would be faced with their first test. They were confronted by Coast Guard plasma cells decked in their white suits, armed with antibodies, and they were willing to defend the treasure with their lives. But you see, the plasma cells brought antibody slingshots to a sword fight. And boy, did they pay with their lives. The mighty Old World crew prevailed yet again. They'd evaded defeat in a torturous battle.
The old hookworms could already smell the treasure. The metallic smell consumed their nostrils, and not too far off in the distance they saw the spongy Long Island. The captain bellowed to his crew,
Aye, me mateys, lungs ahead!
When the Old World hookworms anchored ship in the respiratory tract, the land was not as they expected. It shifted suddenly as a violent earthquake shook them. No, not an earthquake, a cough. The human was coughing. It dumped them into unfamiliar territory, into the land of the mouth. But the smell of treasure was even stronger now.
Aye, hold on tight, lads. We're in for a bumpy ride.
And in a single gulp, the human swallowed the crew
Is given away.
a long and narrow path of yuck and ick. But through the rancid smell was the smell of coin. They were close, any minute now, and aha! There it is, treasure awaits.
Pad ye pockets, dine ye wives. I want castles, fountains, and food. Finery and fancy, only lads and lassies. Here we go. Grow fat and rich.
Fat and rich, yeah, the crew responded, and they set off to spend their weight in gold. The phrase "La vida loca" described what came next.
The Old World crew created a world beyond anyone's expectations. They had all the drinks and food one could imagine provided by the riches of the Jugenum. Hookworm Jack Sparrow claimed the throne as the rightful captain. Hookworm Oprah was always giving away free things. Hookworm Beyonce had all the girlies' information. Well, except for Hookworm Kim K. Hookworm's MJ and Prince, they threw balls every night, and Hookworm Carney would always crash it. Life was good.
But the captain's thirst wasn't quenched. All the finery in the world could not fill the void he felt. What he needed was a little shorty, someone who could fill the void inside, like all the evil that rushed through his body. As he sipped on his third bottle of Corona, there, in the distance, came this heavenly goddess. She had eyes that could pierce a strong man's soul, red hair long and flowing like the petty seas. He planned to make that gem his own. Captain Hook pursued the scrumptious bait of pure womanhood, but 25,000 eggs later, he came to the realization that all she wanted was his body. She didn't love him. She wanted just to have the captain's offspring. Redhead so vile, it broke Captain Jack Sparrow's heart. As vengeance, he willed destruction upon the intestines. The relationship never made it, and they left their poor eggs to make it on their own. The eggs found their way into the human's poop, where they would one day colonize their own petty seas.
Woke up with a fever. He also had a sore throat even though he did not eat that spicy chicken roti he left in the refrigerator. He was feeling terribly ill, and he could not understand why he was perpetually exhausted. As if that wasn't bad enough, he was also sweating from head to toe, and the only thing he could seem to do was poop. Everything he ate seemed to make his stomach ache, but that wasn't all. He had this persistent itch on his foot, and when he looked down, good heavens! Nigel let out a little scream, for his foot was reddened in the outline of a yucky wound. He knew then without doubt that he had to go see the doctor. Dr. Austin examined the foot carefully, but one look at his patient's rash and he knew exactly what the culprit was. Those ruddy hookworms. Diarrhea, fever, fatigue. Oh yes, it's them, said the doctor silently to himself. Out loud this time, he said to Nigel, "Well, boy, after testing your feces, it seems as though you got some friends in your gut, so I'm going to prescribe you some albendazole. It's an anthelmintic drug that's going to get you good as new." Luckily, he did not get other symptoms, such as anemia, loss of weight, or even the urge to eat soil. If you had let this go on long enough, you could have developed a severe case of hookworm disease. Feeling a little bit more optimistic, human Nigel took his medication straight away. Meanwhile, in Nigel's intestines, the hookworms grew old and lazy in their castles, rich, fat, and severely out of shape. They had no idea the hell coming their way. The Zental ninjas made their way down to the small intestines, silent as the winds, deadly as an army. The hookworms finally saw what was happening, but it was too late. The Zental ninjas had already arrived, armed with the promise of death. Mercilessly, they assassinated the lazy old pirate hookworms in their castle, sparing no soul.
Have mercy, lad.
The pirate screamed in his final moments as his head was severed from his body and the old world hookworms were no more.